In the winter of 1895, visitors arriving in the Blue Ridge Mountains encountered a structure that felt less like a house and more like a fragment of the Loire Valley. Biltmore was, and remains, the largest home in America. With 4 acres under a single roof and 35 bedrooms, it projected the permanence and staggering scale of a timeless European palace. But beneath the limestone was a hidden, resource-devouring industrial machine. Down in the basement, boiler rooms the size of small factories burned through coal around the clock. Over 100 maids, footmen, and engineers moved through miles of unadorned service corridors every day just to keep the mechanism functioning. This chart shows the sheer volume of resources required just to keep the lights on and the water hot. When mapped against a standard large home of the era, the monthly tonnage of coal and provisions required by Biltmore reveal a relentless appetite. It was an operation that functioned on a scale of mass industrial consumption. The grandeur of the construction masked a specific internal gravity. Every day the house stood, it generated a massive financial liability that demanded a relentless stream of capital just to survive. George Vanderbilt's original intent was quiet and private. He envisioned a retreat for his books and a working scientific forestry lab, assuming his Gilded Age railroad inheritance would fund the estate's deficits indefinitely. The estate's ledger was a delicate act of physics. This scale illustrates the dynamic. The massive deficit created by the house's operating costs was carefully balanced by a heavy counterweight of George's external investment income. The system was entirely fragile. There was no internal margin. If the Vanderbilt dividends ever faltered, the estate's expenses would immediately tip the scale and crush the family fortune. The Vanderbilt fortune was vast. But even a machine this grand cannot survive when the rules of American wealth are suddenly rewritten. The first shock arrived in 1913. The ratification of the 16th Amendment created the federal income tax, instantly siphoning away the investment income that kept the boilers firing. Only a year later, a second shock arrived. George Vanderbilt died suddenly at age 51, leaving his widow, Edith, in sole control of a massive, bleeding balance sheet. Edith faced a blunt mathematical reality. Without George's full income to bridge the gap, the estate's operating costs would bankrupt the family within a decade. To save the irreplaceable house, Edith made an unsentimental pivot. She sold 86,000 acres, nearly 2/3 of George's prized forest, to the federal government. This sale generated the capital necessary to retire the estate's debts. Simultaneously, it protected the land forever, forming the core of what is now the Pisgah National Forest and cementing the family's ecological legacy. Edith survived the first crisis by realizing that sentiment cannot pay bills. Preserving the core of Biltmore required liquidating the landscape surrounding it. The 1929 stock market crash brought the estate back to the brink. Remaining Vanderbilt investments lost their value, and the cash flow required for maintenance turned uncertain once again. The Great Depression gutted the local economy in Asheville. Unemployment soared, and regional tourism, which had been growing through the 20s, vanished almost overnight. Facing ruin, Edith broke a high society taboo. She opened her private family palace to the paying public for a $1 admission fee. Opening the gates transformed the private utopia into an economic anchor for the region. Admission revenue kept the boilers firing and injected much-needed wages into the hands of local guides and merchants during the height of the crisis. The outbreak of World War II killed civilian travel again. Rationing and travel restrictions wiped out Biltmore's new tourism revenue overnight, leaving the house empty and the bills mounting. At the same time, the National Gallery of Art in Washington faced an emergency. With the nation at war, they desperately needed a secure, inland location to hide America's cultural treasures from potential coastal attacks. Biltmore's isolation and stone construction made it the perfect vault. Crates containing millions of dollars in art, including the iconic Gilbert Stuart portrait of George Washington, were secretly stored in the darkened rooms. During its darkest hour, the estate survived by abandoning its identity as a home. It served instead as a heavily guarded national vault, protecting the country's heritage to pay its own way. In the post-war era, the Vanderbilt descendants formalized Edith's adaptations. They turned the house into a professionally managed cultural business, ensuring it could generate its own gravity. Today, Biltmore is a massive operation with wineries, hotels, and over 1 million annual visitors. Its payroll of 2,000 employees dwarfs the original staff. This corporate expansion is the only mathematical way to generate the vast capital required for continuous historic preservation. The house survives because it successfully transitioned from a private liability to a public resource. George Vanderbilt envisioned a private, rigid aristocratic retreat. To survive, the estate had to become a public, bustling enterprise. Grand architecture and unlimited wealth are not enough to guarantee a legacy. Resources without adaptation guarantee failure. Biltmore survived the collapse of the Gilded Age because its stewards had the humility to let the dream evolve. It proves that the true price of immortality is learning to serve the public.